Have you ever heard a sound that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up? A noise in the dead of night that you simply couldn't explain? Most of us dismiss it. The wind, an old house settling, our minds playing tricks on us. But what if it wasn't a trick? What if it was a voice from a place we cannot see? A voice from beyond the veil of life and death? Today, we journey into the heart of one of the most profound and unsettling mystical experiences of the 20th century. We will walk alongside a simple Polish nun, a woman chosen by heaven to receive messages that would change the world. Her name was Sister Maria Faustina Kowalska, now known to us as Saint Faustina. Her life was one of prayer and quiet service, but her inner world was a universe of divine encounters. In her now famous diary, she recorded not just conversations with Jesus Christ himself, but also harrowing glimpses into the afterlife. And it is there, in the pages of her secret journal, that we find the answer to a chilling question. What does eternity sound like? In this video, we will uncover the two specific, terrifying sounds that Saint Faustina heard. First, the desperate, pleading cry of a soul trapped in the purifying fires of purgatory, a soul begging for a single act of mercy. And then we will confront something even more dreadful, the eternal, hopeless lament of a soul lost forever in hell. This is not just a story, it is a spiritual testimony, a window into a reality that awaits us all. Before we can understand the scream, we must first understand the woman who heard it. Saint Faustina was not a theologian or a scholar. She was a humble, uneducated nun chosen for a mission of immense importance, to be the apostle and secretary of divine mercy. Jesus himself tasked her with writing down everything he revealed to her, creating a spiritual roadmap for humanity.
This diary was not meant to be a book of abstract theories. It was a raw, personal, and often painful account of her daily interactions with the supernatural. Heaven and hell were not distant concepts for her. They were present, tangible realities that often broke into her world, sometimes with gentle light, and other times with terrifying force. Her mission was deeply connected to souls, especially those who had already passed from this life. She was given a special charism, a spiritual gift, to see, feel, and hear the state of souls after death. She became a living bridge between our world and the next, a warrior of prayer whose intercession could bring relief to those suffering in purgatory. Imagine living in the quiet, structured world of a convent. Your days are marked by the ringing of bells, the soft chanting of prayers, and the silence of contemplation. It is a world designed to shut out the noise of the world. But for Faustina, the silence was often broken by sounds no one else could hear. Whispers, pleas, and cries from souls who knew she could help them. These souls would appear to her, often in her cell at night, asking for prayers. They were not ghosts in the way we imagine from horror movies. They were real persons, bearing the marks of their earthly lives and the pains of their current purification. They were our brothers and sisters on the final stage of their journey to God, and they were in desperate need of help. But why was Faustina chosen for this difficult and often frightening task? Because the message of divine mercy is not just for the living. It extends even to those who are paying the price for their sins in purgatory. It is a message of hope that God's mercy is greater than any failure, and that our prayers have the power to cross the boundaries of death itself. Faustina was a living demonstration of this profound truth.
Her experiences were a powerful reminder that our connection to those who have died is not severed. We are still part of one family, the communion of saints, bound by love and by prayer. But what happens when a soul's need is so great, their suffering so intense, that a simple vision is not enough? What happens when their plea becomes a scream? What does the voice of a soul in agony truly sound like? And what was the first specific cry that shattered the silence of Saint Faustina's convent, a cry that she would never forget? We are about to explore the chilling account of her encounter with a suffering soul, a story that reveals just how real and how close the reality of purgatory truly is. The story is found in entry number 58 of her diary. It wasn't a vague feeling or a distant thought. It was a direct, personal,
and unforgettable encounter. One night, after she had gone to her cell and was preparing for rest, the silence was not broken, but pierced. She saw a soul. It was the soul of a young sister from her own congregation who had died just a short time before. But this was not a peaceful vision. Faustina describes the sister as being in a terrible condition. Imagine that for a moment. Not just sad, not just regretful, but in a state of visible, profound suffering. Her face was contorted in pain, and her entire being radiated an aura of agony. She was surrounded by what Faustina described as flames, yet from her heart, even more terrifying flames shot out. This was the fire of purification, a fire that burns away the residue of sin, the attachments to earthly things, the imperfections that cannot enter the presence of a perfectly holy God. It is a state of suffering, yes, but it is a suffering born of love and filled with hope. For every soul in purgatory is destined for heaven. They have been saved, but their journey is not yet complete.
The soul of this sister looked at Faustina, and from the depths of her being came a cry. It may not have been a sound that could be recorded by a microphone, but it was a scream that echoed in Faustina's own soul. It was a cry for a single drop of water in a desert of fire. It was the desperate plea of someone who can no longer help themselves. And what did this soul ask for? What was the one thing that could bring her relief? She begged Faustina for 1 day of fasting and to offer all her spiritual exercises for her intention. Just 1 day. A small sacrifice for a living person, but an immeasurable treasure for a soul in purgatory. Think about the weight of that request. The soul was not asking for worldly goods or for time to be turned back. She was asking for an act of love, an act of sacrifice from the world she had left behind. This reveals a profound spiritual law. Those in the church militant, we who are still on earth, have the power to assist the church suffering, those being purified in purgatory. Our prayers, sacrifices, and acts of charity are like a cool balm on their burns. Saint Faustina, filled with a deep sense of compassion, immediately agreed, but she decided to go beyond the request. She resolved to fast not for 1 day, but for 3 days, and to offer not just her spiritual exercises, but all her mortifications and prayers for this suffering sister. She felt a powerful urge to pour out her heart in mercy for this soul in need. After making this promise, the soul vanished. Faustina was left alone in the silence of her cell, but the experience had shaken her to the core. This was not a dream. It was a raw, unfiltered look into the justice and mercy of God. It was proof that death is not the end of our responsibility to one another. The following day, during Holy Mass, Faustina felt the presence of that same sister, but this time it was different. She experienced her presence in a spiritual way, in her own soul. She understood that her prayers were already beginning to work, that the grace of the Mass was flowing from the altar directly to this soul, bringing her immense relief. This experience teaches us something incredibly important about the power we hold. A simple prayer, a small sacrifice, attending a Mass with a specific intention for a departed loved one. These are not empty gestures. They are powerful spiritual weapons that can accelerate a soul's journey to paradise. They are the drops of water that the souls in purgatory so desperately crave. But Faustina's story with this sister was not yet over. The most powerful part of the revelation was yet to come. Her initial cry was one of pain, but what would her voice sound like when the purification was complete? And what does this single dramatic event tell us about the countless other souls who wait in silence for our help? This cry from purgatory was a shock, but it was a cry of hope. It was a cry from a soul on its way to God. However, there is another sound Faustina heard, a sound with no hope in it at all. What is the sound of a soul that can no longer be helped? Before we delve into the sound of eternal despair, let us conclude the story of the hopeful soul from purgatory. 3 days after her initial plea, Saint Faustina saw the sister again, but this time everything had changed. The flames were gone, the agony had vanished from her face. Instead, she was radiant, filled with an indescribable joy. She approached Faustina not with a cry of pain, but with a voice of pure gratitude. She said, "The Lord has already rewarded you." She revealed that from the very moment Faustina had intensified her prayers, she had experienced immense relief. Her purification was complete. With a final, joyful thank you, she ascended toward heaven. Faustina witnessed her entry into eternal glory. This beautiful conclusion shows us the two sides of purgatory, the intense suffering of purification and the certain hope of salvation. It proves that our small acts of love on earth have monumental consequences in the afterlife. One soul saved from suffering and brought to paradise because a humble nun chose to listen to her cry and offer a simple sacrifice. But this hopeful cry stands in stark contrast to the other sound she heard. This second sound did not come from a place of purification. It came from a place of finality, a place of no return. To understand it, we must journey with Faustina to the very abyss, on a tour of hell guided by an angel. This terrifying vision is recorded in entry 741 of her diary. She writes, "Today I was led by an angel to the chasms of hell." The words themselves are chilling. This was not a dream or an allegory. For her, it was a real, guided journey into the heart of eternal damnation. She describes it as a place of great torture. The first thing that struck her was not fire, but a vast, suffocating darkness. A thick, murky gloom filled with a terrible, choking stench that was unbearable. And in this darkness, she saw separate tortures designated for different types of sins, spaces of agony designed for the specific ways souls had rejected God in their lives.
But Faustina makes it clear that the physical torments, as horrifying as they were not the worst part. She lists the primary sufferings of hell, and the first, the most agonizing of all, is the loss of God. Imagine the deepest loneliness you have ever felt and multiply it by infinity. It is the eternal, agonizing awareness of having rejected the only source of love, joy, and peace forever. The second torment is perpetual remorse, a constant gnawing awareness of the choices that led you there. Not a regret that leads to repentance, but a bitter, hateful regret that eats away at the soul for all eternity. It is the endless replay of every missed opportunity for grace, every rejection of love, every choice for self over God. Then comes the third torment, the certain knowledge that one's condition will never, ever change, the utter and complete absence of hope. In purgatory, suffering is temporary and leads to glory. In hell, suffering is permanent and leads only to more suffering. This is the source of the terrible despair that permeates the very air of the abyss. And it is from this despair that the sound comes. Faustina does not describe a single cry for help, because in hell, no one asks for help. The souls there are locked in their final, eternal choice to reject God. Instead, she describes the sounds of horrible despair, hatred of God, vile words, curses, and blasphemies. This is the lament of the damned. It is not a cry of pain seeking relief. It is the eternal scream of rage and self-hatred. It is the sound of a soul that has become pure, concentrated bitterness. The sound of a being that chose to be its own God and now must live forever with the emptiness of that choice. It is the terrible, final, and unchanging sound of a soul that has gotten exactly what it wanted, a universe without God.
Faustina was so overwhelmed by this vision that she wrote, "I would have died at the sight of these tortures if the omnipotence of God had not supported me." This was not a spectacle. It was a soul-crushing reality that she was permitted to witness for a very specific reason. Why would God show such a terrible thing to his beloved servant? The answer reveals the very heart of the divine mercy message. The reason for this terrifying vision was not to frighten for the sake of fear. God did not show hell to Saint Faustina to terrorize her, but to motivate her. After the vision, she wrote, "I, Sister Faustina, by the order of God, have visited the abyss of hell so that I can tell souls about it and testify to its existence." Her mission was to be a witness. She was shown this ultimate reality so that no one could say they were not warned. The vision was a profound act of mercy. It was God saying, through Faustina, "This is real. This is the ultimate consequence of turning away from my love. I show you this not to condemn you, but to call you back to me before it is too late." This is the crucial difference between the two sounds Faustina heard. The cry from Purgatory was a plea from a soul who loved God but was not yet perfect. It was a cry for help on the final leg of a journey home. The lament from hell was the eternal, hateful noise of souls who had made their final, unchangeable decision to reject God's love. They were not asking for help. They were screaming in rage at the consequences of their own choices. The vision of hell ignited an even greater fire in Saint Faustina's vow. She writes, "Ever since that time, I have been praying with even greater fervor for the conversion of sinners. I incessantly plead God's mercy upon them." She understood that every prayer, every small act of penance, could be the grace that pulls a soul back from the edge of that very abyss she had witnessed.
This brings us to a critical point. The message of hell is not meant to paralyze us with fear. It is meant to mobilize us with love. It is a call to action. It forces us to ask ourselves, who in my life is walking toward this danger? Who have I given up on? Who needs my prayers right now? The existence of hell makes the message of divine mercy all the more urgent and beautiful. It highlights the incredible drama of our freedom. God will not force anyone into heaven. He stands at the door of our hearts and knocks, but we must choose to open it. The souls Faustina saw in hell were those who, until their very last breath, refused to open that door. Think about the contrast. One soul, in temporary pain, reaches out and finds immediate, overwhelming help through the prayers of a single person. Countless other souls, in eternal pain, are locked in a state where they can no longer ask for or receive help. The dividing line is their final choice in life. This is why the message Faustina was given is so centered on trust. Jesus told her repeatedly, "The greater the sinner, the greater the right he has to my mercy. No sin is too great to be forgiven. No life is too broken to be healed." But the offer of mercy requires a response. It requires a simple act of turning back to God and saying, "Jesus, I trust in you." The sounds Faustina heard were the echoes of eternity, shaped by the choices made in time. The pleading cry of the soul in purgatory reminds us of the power of intercessory prayer and the reality of purification. The hateful lament of the damned reminds us of the terrible seriousness of sin and the finality of our choices. Both sounds serve the same purpose: to wake us up, to shake us from our spiritual complacency, to remind us that this life is not a dress rehearsal. It is the one and only chance we have to choose our eternal destiny. But how can we apply this knowledge in a practical way? How do these mystical revelations from a Polish nun nearly a century ago affect us, sitting here, watching this video today? The experiences of Saint Faustina are not just historical curiosities. They are a direct and personal invitation to us. They provide a spiritual toolkit, a set of practices that can bring immense grace to both the living and the dead. The first and most powerful tool she was given is the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. This prayer was taught to her directly by Jesus. He promised her, "When they say this chaplet in the presence of the dying, I will stand between my Father and the dying person, not as the judge, but as the merciful Savior." Think about the power of that promise. By reciting this simple prayer, we can place ourselves at the bedside of any dying person in the world, spiritually, and call upon Jesus to be their Savior in that final, crucial moment. This is the antidote to the despair of hell. It is an act of trust that inserts God's infinite mercy into the moment of ultimate choice. How many souls, trembling on the edge of the abyss, could be saved by this prayer? We may never know in this life, but Faustina's visions assure us that the effect is real and profound. The second practice is the remembrance of the souls in purgatory. The desperate cry of that young sister was not a unique event. It represents the silent plea of countless souls who depend on our help. We can offer masses for our deceased loved ones. We can offer our daily struggles, our small sacrifices, and our prayers for their release.
This is not a morbid practice. It is an act of profound hope and family solidarity. We are saying to our departed brothers and sisters, "You are not forgotten. We are still with you. We are helping you on your journey home. Every time we do this, we are answering a cry like the one Faustina heard. We are sending that drop of water to cool the purifying flames. The third and perhaps most personal application is a serious examination of our own lives. The vision of hell serves as a divine warning light on the dashboard of our soul. It forces us to ask, are there areas in my life where I am consistently choosing myself over God? Are there sins I have grown comfortable with? Is there forgiveness I am refusing to give or to ask for? The lament of the damned is the sound of pride that has become permanent. It is the sound of unforgiveness that has solidified into eternal bitterness. The vision is a merciful call to root out these things from our hearts now, while we still have time. It invites us to run to the sacrament of confession, where the divine mercy washes our souls clean and gives us a fresh start. These revelations were not given to make us scrupulous or anxious. They were given to make us merciful, to fill us with a holy urgency to pray for sinners, to assist the souls in purgatory, and to keep our own souls in a state of grace. Faustina herself became a living embodiment of this mercy, constantly offering her own sufferings for the salvation of others. Her diary is filled with moments where she felt the spiritual agony of a dying sinner, taking it upon herself so that they might have one last chance to repent. She fought spiritual battles for souls she would never meet on earth. She understood that we are all connected in a profound spiritual reality, and that the choices we make have consequences that ripple out into eternity.
So the question for us is not simply, do I believe these stories? The real question is, what will I do with them? Will we allow the cry from purgatory to move us to pray for the dead? Will we allow the lament from hell to motivate us to pray for the conversion of sinners and to examine our own conscience? Will we embrace the tools of mercy, like the chaplet, that God has given us through this humble saint? The answer to these questions could change not only our own destiny, but the destiny of souls we may never even know. But there is one final, crucial element to this story that ties everything together: the image of divine mercy itself. The image of divine mercy, with the inscription, "Jesus, I trust in you," is more than just a painting. It is a visual summary of the entire message Faustina received. Jesus himself instructed her on how it should be painted and attached incredible promises to its veneration. He called it a vessel of grace through which he would pour out his mercy upon souls. Look at the image. Jesus is not distant or condemning. He is walking towards us. His hand is raised in a gesture of blessing, a sign of forgiveness and peace. From his heart, 2 rays of light stream forth. Faustina asked Jesus what they meant. He explained, "The pale ray stands for the water which makes souls righteous. The red ray stands for the blood, which is the life of souls." These 2 rays represent the sacraments of baptism and the Eucharist, the very founts of grace that flow from the heart of Jesus, pierced on the cross. They are the ultimate answer to both the cry from purgatory and the lament from hell. The water cleanses and purifies, making us ready for heaven. The blood gives us new life, divine life, saving us from eternal death. When we look at this image and pray, "Jesus, I trust in you," we are performing a powerful act of faith. We are acknowledging our own weakness and sinfulness, but we are also declaring our absolute confidence in His infinite love and forgiveness. It is the prayer that opens the floodgates of His mercy. For the soul in purgatory, this trust is their lifeline. They trusted in God's mercy and life, and now they are being purified to experience that mercy in its fullness. Our prayers, offered with trust, become conduits of grace, hastening their journey. The image reminds us of the source of the mercy we are calling down upon them. For the souls on earth, walking in darkness, this image is a beacon of hope. Jesus promised, "I promise that the soul that will venerate this image will not perish. I also promise victory over its enemies already here on earth, especially at the hour of death. I myself will defend it as my own glory." This is a staggering promise. It is the ultimate defense against the despair of hell. The image is a silent sermon. It tells us that no matter how dark our sins, the rays of mercy are more powerful. No matter how far we have strayed, Jesus is always walking towards us, ready to bless and forgive. The lament Faustina heard from hell was the sound of souls who refused to look at this image, who refused to accept this offer, who refused to trust. Therefore, venerating the image of divine mercy is not a superstitious act. It is a profound spiritual practice. It is a way to keep the reality of God's merciful love constantly before our eyes. Placing it in our homes is like building a spiritual lightning rod that draws down the graces of heaven and repels the forces of darkness.
It connects everything we have discussed. The cry from Purgatory is a plea for the mercy that flows from Jesus' heart. The lament from hell is the sound of its eternal rejection. The chaplet is the prayer that unleashes the power of that mercy. And the image is the constant visual reminder of the promise that is available to all who will simply trust. Saint Faustina's entire life became a testament to this reality. She lived, breathed, and suffered for the sake of divine mercy. She heard the sounds of the afterlife so that we would be moved to act in this life. Her experiences were not meant to remain locked in the pages of a diary. They were meant to transform our hearts and change the way we live our faith. They are a call from heaven to become apostles of mercy in our own time. So as we reflect on these two terrifying and profound sounds, let's bring it back to ourselves. We stand between these two eternities. Every day, with every choice, we are moving closer to one or the other. What voices are we listening to? The voice of despair, pride, and unforgiveness? Or the voice of mercy, trust, and love? The cry from Purgatory and the lament from hell are not just sounds from another world. They are echoes of our own potential futures. One is the sound of love being perfected. The other is the sound of love eternally rejected. Saint Faustina was given the painful privilege of hearing these echoes so that we could learn to tune our own lives to the frequency of mercy. Her experiences pull back the curtain on the spiritual drama that unfolds with every human life, reminding us that our choices here on earth resonate for all eternity. We are not alone in this journey. The saints, the angels, and the souls in Purgatory are part of our extended family. The help we give them and the help they give us is real. The battle for souls is real. And the mercy of God, offered freely and abundantly, is the most real and powerful force in the universe.
Transforming signs into action, your practical guide. These revelations are not meant to remain as abstract stories. They are a call to transform our spiritual lives. Here is a simple guide to begin putting the message of divine mercy into practice, starting right now. In the next 24 hours, first, pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet. Find a quiet moment today, perhaps at 3 p.m., the hour of great mercy, or before you go to sleep. You can find the prayer easily online. As you pray it, dedicate it to a specific intention, for a loved one who has passed away, for someone in your life who is far from God, or for a dying sinner somewhere in the world whom you will never meet. Second, perform a conscious act of mercy. This can be small. Let another car go ahead of you in traffic, offer a genuine compliment to a coworker, or forgive a small annoyance from a family member. As you perform this act, silently say in your heart, "For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world," connecting your small act to Christ's ultimate sacrifice. In the next 7 days, first, remember a holy soul. Choose one day this week to make a small sacrifice specifically for a soul in Purgatory. It could be forgoing a dessert, waking up 15 minutes earlier to pray, or fasting from social media for an evening. Offer this small inconvenience with love, asking God to apply its merit to a soul in desperate need of that drop of water. Second, gaze upon mercy. Find the image of divine mercy online and set it as the wallpaper on your phone or computer for the week. Each time you see it, let it be a reminder to say, "Jesus, I trust in you." Take a moment to truly look at the rays flowing from his heart and believe that his mercy is flowing into your life in that very moment. In the next 30 days, first, encounter mercy in confession. Make a concrete plan to go to the Sacrament of Reconciliation within the next month. Prepare for it by prayerfully examining your conscience, not with fear, but with the confidence of a child who knows they are running to a loving Father. See it as Faustina did, not as a tribunal, but as a personal encounter with the God of mercy who desires to heal and restore you. Second, become a secretary of mercy. Keep a simple journal for the next 30 days. Each day, write down just 2 things, one grace you are thankful for, and one person or situation you are entrusting to God's divine mercy. This simple practice will train your heart to see God's action in your life and to become an active intercessor for others. In the silence of your own heart, two eternities are calling. The voice you answer will be the sound of your eternity. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next revelations. Comment what you thought of this video and what city you're watching from. Share this with someone who needs to hear this message.